Welcome everyone to a momentous version of Durham's Community Safety Wellness Task Force. This is our final official meeting prior to a community gathering later on this month that you'll hear about. But so glad that you are joining us. As we were waiting for a quorum to arrive, we were just talking about what good ground Durham is. It's good grounds because we've got great neighbors, and there's a lot of what we hope that a lot of what we've been doing is going to have a very positive impact on our neighbors. So I just want to welcome you to this space, whether you're here live or coming back and checking us out on YouTube at another hour that's more feasible for you. But we just thank you for being here, and I'll pass it over to Marsha for our values.
Thanks, Xavier. Yes, there's an old disco song with the line that all ends with beginnings. And that's how I feel as we have our final official meeting. It's been really fabulous. The value I'd like to offer us today is perseverance. We have been so faithful to our mission. And as we begin, as we end within a beginning, I just hope that perseverance continues, because it is in that steadfast, staying with it perseverance that I think we can affect generations to come. So with that, I will send it back to you, Xavier, for the vote and report.
And I believe you were going to just give us a little comment, set the stage for this report before I call the vote, because I believe everyone has received it, of course, by email. Anything that anyone would like to say about the report before we actually take it to a vote?
Great.
Marsha, no comment?
Well, I just was opening it up for others. Oh, I'm sorry. You're waiting for me to comment. I'm sorry.
No, for anyone,
just
but yeah.
I just think it's fantastic and shows one thing that I just have to say, that it is an expression of a phenomenal talent and ability and love of Rose Worth, who is a project manager extraordinaire. This report, to bring all these pieces together, all these hundreds and hundreds of hours of listening to one another and our neighbors and all of that information. Rose, you have just been a gift so great. So thank you. Thank you. This is really a testimony, I think, to an expression of your greatness and your generosity. So thank you.
I only accept a tiny bit of that, because I think so much of this is a reflection of all the hard work that all of you have done. And so I just wanted to do my piece at the finish line, really, to bring everything that you have done together. So I insist that the report is a reflection of all of you, and I'm happy to have some part in that.
Thank you again. And Jennifer saying in the chat, thanks a million thank yous for the labor that went into putting this report together. And of course, the report is a reflection of all the work that we've been doing in the roundtables. For those who have not yet had a chance to see, what we're voting on is the text and the heart of the report. We'll add some graphics to it a little later. I'm happy to say it will be translated in Spanish as well as English. It contains of course, an executive summary, which is just an introduction of who we were and how we came about, table of contents, glossary of terms. And there were a lot of new terms I had to come up and get to know. And being an educator, that's saying something, because we would love some acronyms in education, but I learned a lot in this process. Of course, the document talks about those who've contributed to this report, the task force members, as well as others. And of course, the most important part of the reports and recommendations from a criminal legal system roundtable, a crisis care response roundtable, a violence prevention roundtable, our youth and schools roundtable. And then you get a call to action, and then a table of recommendations and some wonderful reference material for you in our appendices. So with that being said, I'd like to open the floor to vote on our final report. Are we ready? I hope so. So I'll start with Alejandra.
Yes.
Thank you. Jennifer.
Yes.
Thank you. Jesse.
Yes.
Thank you. Manju.
Yes.
Thank you. Marcia.
Yes.
Thank you. Mike.
Yes.
Thank you. Wanda.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll vote yes as well. It passes unanimously. Whew. Job well done. Job well done. This is going to be amazing to get this into our community.
Big thanks to all the community members who shared such vulnerable stories with us over these years.
It's been great to be in conversation with you. Okay, then I'm sorry, Mike, did you want to say something?
I was going to ask if the other roundtables are also planning on sharing specific sets of recommendations with any either other agencies or community partners in addition to the city and the county and the school board, who are going to obviously get the entire task force report. I know that the criminal legal system roundtable, we're planning to do that. Of course, we're going to wait until after the 28th and wait until after we have the full task force report to also share with context, along with a particular set of recommendations that might be especially relevant to some particular, like say, the A&D recommendations for DSS or guardian ad litem or whatnot. But are other roundtables thinking of doing similar?
I feel comfortable speaking on behalf of the Youth and Schools Roundtable. Alejandra, feel free to correct me if you know something I don't. I don't think we have any plans or aspirations at this point to present to any particular groups. I think there's interest and openness. I think at this point, we've had some engagement with the school board and expect that, but that's as you mentioned. I know Trustee Rogers, Millicent Rogers, invited me to join her on a site visit later this week. So I'm not at home. I'm actually in Portland, Maine right now with my mom on vacation, and we'll leave tomorrow. And instead of coming back to Durham, I'll fly to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and join Millicent to do a site visit on school safety. And so we aren't presenting anything formally. And I imagine it'll be a chance to learn and share and connect and, be in spaces where people are thinking creatively about safety. So that's what's on my radar as it relates to potential or upcoming opportunities to share more about the work of our roundtable and really the work of our task force as a whole. So that's what I can offer, Mike.
In terms of prevention, the community is clamoring for information. And so after the 28th, in the spaces where I'm involved, then absolutely we will share the content with community members from all areas of the community.
I'm so glad you asked that. I'm so glad you're thinking about that. We haven't had those conversations, but are glad to be challenged to have those conversations.
We might be somewhat unique in that, as you know, their recommendations are is that, don't relate to the city, don't relate to the school board, don't even really relate that much to the county. It's more in the purview of the administrative office of the courts or the DA or the senior superior court judge, et cetera. So that's why we wanted to make sure it got across the transom of those other relevant agencies and organizations that wouldn't necessarily see it otherwise if it just went to the 3 governing bodies.
If you'd like more warm bodies, I'd love to see y'all in action when you share with those.
Well, and I think
folks.
we were mostly thinking of as in sending it to them, but if that says, hey, would you come and talk with us, then yeah, that's a whole other, and we would certainly be able to use the example of what we present to the community on the 28th to build off of that.
Amazing. Thank you for looking beyond this report and making sure it stays relevant, alive, and then we continue to get feedback on it. Okay, if there's no other report-related commentary, we can move on to our discussion of the October 28th event with Rose and Manju.
Absolutely. So I thought we could start by sharing, Manju and I have met over the last couple weeks and we came up with a draft agenda. So I wanted to share the screen and then Manju is going to kind of walk through what we've come up with so far.
So this is just a draft. We are welcoming feedback at this time. We'll be gathering on Saturday, October 28th at Holton Resource Center in East Durham, 2 to 4 p.m. Jesse has agreed to be our MC from 2 to 2:30. We will begin with food and mingling. We'll have some posters on the wall inviting participation. So inviting folks to mark where they live in Durham on a big map of Durham and marking there what is something you are practicing to increase safety and wellness in your community, which will give us kind of a snapshot of some of the places folks are coming from and what they're practicing. Welcome from Marcia and Xavier, offering an encouraging word about the work so far and the work to come. We're trying to figure out what the opener performance might be, some poetry, some song, hopefully something that folks can participate in. Then we'll break out into 4 breakouts, and we're hoping that each roundtable can theme this short conversation. It's just an hour long. And there will be many participants. So we're hoping that it can really stay focused around a particular question. And we're hoping that that particular question can come straight out of the listening sessions. So what was kind of the central question you were asking in your town halls or interviews or focus groups or around listening sessions? We will gather in those breakouts, then come back together and share like quick report backs, not a summary of all the things, but a highlight from each breakout, what was learned. It would be great if we had a note taker in each of those spaces too, so we can be capturing public feedback there as well. Then we will have closing words from Jatoya and Isak, hopefully. Okay, actually, there should be a question mark there because I haven't heard back from either of them, I don't think. Let me check. And then we're hoping to close with a short song or a poem. And we were thinking about reaching out to a few different groups, welcoming feedback about all of this.
That sounds great. That looks wonderful. And I did speak, Mike and I, we had our criminal legal system meeting today, and Jatoya knows about, we discussed it, and it looks good.
And will we also have hard copies of the report on hand for obviously presumably for attendees to be able to thumb through and take
Our
with them to the
plan-
breakouts?
I'm so glad you asked that. I mean, it is kind of the whole point, right? The report launch. We should definitely have reports. Man, y'all, we have all worked so hard over these last few weeks, especially to try and get all of those different components together. So thank you to every team for making that possible. And then thanks a million to Tilde and Murtado's language services company for really racing to get translation together. So we actually somehow have the miracle of 22,000 words of phenomenal recommendations from this task force translated into Spanish. And that's already in the hands of the graphic designers who are, thank you so much to Miel Design, who's also burning the midnight oil to make sure that it's a beautiful, accessible document. Thanks to many Durham artists, thanks to Nori for helping brainstorm who we should reach out to for art and for helping reach out to artists. So all of those components, y'all lay some prayer on this, will come together in time to print 200 copies before this event. What we're not sure will be ready is the translation of the appendices. Is that right, Rose? Do you mind listing what we're not sure will be fully translated in time?
Yeah, so the full text of all of the recommendations came to somewhere around 100 or so, 120 pages. So a different translation firm that works with the city is working on that translation. And I think might have it done by the end of October, but just no guarantees. I don't think we should plan on having copies of those at the event itself. But
we can have them there in English. We just won't have them
in Spanish.
Yeah.
And then the second appendix is that list of further like resources and reading. So that is also easy to have copies available, or at least very least online. And then the third appendix is kind of all of the like reports and documents that have been produced from listening sessions, from the questionnaires that everyone has put out. So that material also still needs to be translated and will not be available in Spanish by the time of the final event, but should be available at some point in the like days or weeks around it.
I wonder too, Rose, if we could just share our little summary of who we've heard back from the electeds.
Yes, I can do that. So let me see.
And you're still sharing screen right now.
Yes, I am. I think you're just seeing the Google Doc, right?
Yep.
Okay, I think that I can.
We are now seeing your whole screen.
The whole screen or just the
We're seeing what you're typing in.
yes. There we go. Easiest way to get to it. This is the to-do list. If anyone wants to help out with it, feel free, but here's the yeses and nos so far.
So
and the final timeline for the report.
Yeah, green means yes, red means no, yellow means we haven't heard back yet. It means we've reached out and haven't heard back yet. Is that right?
I think we got a thing about a specific way that we need to send invitations to the mayor, which is what that particular one is about, but everyone else has received an invitation.
Okay. So yes, Mayor Pro Tem Mark Anthony Middleton will be there. Yes, Council Member Leonardo Williams will be there. Yes, Commissioner Heidi Carter will be there. Yes, Commissioner Brenda Howerton will be there. Yes, Commissioner Wendy Jacobs. Yes, from School Board Member Natalie Beyer and from School Board Member Emily Chavez. And I believe we have School Board Member Javonia Lewis on the line, so maybe we can just put you on the spot and make sure we'll have your wonderful presence in the room.
I think so, but I'll confirm via email. No worries.
Wonderful, thank you. And if you wouldn't mind just reinforcing the invitation to the other members of the school board. I know they're fielding a lot of email, and it would be really great to know that that had been directly conveyed.
Are we considering also, now that we know who it will be, all of the mayoral and city council candidates in the general?
We should do that. Let's make sure that we add that to our to-do list. Thanks, Rose. Thanks, Mike, for making that reminder. Is there someone who would want to take that on to reach out to the candidates who are making it to the general election? Congratulations to all the candidates who made it through the primary last night and to all who ran.
I'll take that on.
I was going to
Thank
say,
you
it would
so
seem most
much.
appropriate coming from Xavier, coming from you or Marcia, but so thank you.
Yeah, and I'll help. Absolutely, for sure.
Thank you.
So
I
I
s-
was gonna say, the document I have on screen now that I shared with everyone in the chat is the reach out list. And this was based off of the brainstorming that Xavier and Manju led back in October of last year, so a year ago, of the kind of who the wisdom circle is that y'all wanted to share the final report with. So some of them are like non-specific. You'll see down here, like family members of previously or currently incarcerated family members who've been divided by CPS, people in caring professions. So some of those could potentially get fleshed out. But what would be great is, and I think people have already been sending the invite, I sent the flyer out and the sort of blurb that Manju wrote up. So if you already have sent emails to some of these people, just put your name down, and we put multiple columns because it never hurts to get multiple invitations, just to sort of reinforce that you are welcome and wanted at an event. So if you know someone and someone else also knows someone, feel free to, kind of both sign up and just forward the invite or copy and paste it. But if folks could sign up just so that we know that each person is at least getting an invitation from someone, that would be awesome.
Yay, our first volunteer, Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People and NAACP. Thank you, Dr. Wanda.
And then the other thing that maybe if we have like a couple minutes, we could just brainstorm real quick would be, so for each breakout room, we had envisioned maybe one person or two people kind of taking the lead as the facilitator of that breakout, and maybe one person as a note taker. And then also, maybe we could just jot down below the kind of central questions that we want asked in each breakout room, just so we don't have to do separate meetings or coordination via email if we have everyone here. And if people aren't here, if people want to discuss afterwards, we can do that as well, but just thought we could open up the space for that.
So sorry, Rose,
And-
what are you asking us to tell you now?
If you are willing to be a facilitator in your
Got it.
breakout room session, and if you have an idea for like the sort of central discussion question for the breakout session for your roundtable.
Got it. I assume we obviously want to leave most of the time for folks to talk and ask questions, but I assume we'll need to spend a little time at the front, giving them the very briefest of summaries of our set of recommendations. Correct? It won't just be a generic discussion of what needs to happen. It'll be, this is what we propose should happen with respect to these areas, and then have discussion around that central question following that, right?
No, that's a different idea than we had, but
Or
this is a space for
because
different
if
ideas.
we're unveiling our task force report and recommendations, I assume we need to give the community some brief summary of what those specific recommendations are.
We didn't really hold space for that, but we could make space for that. We had imagined that it would be more like almost like another round of listening, like opening up one of the core questions
Okay.
that we offered in our report, and then handing people this thick document being the way that they would receive
Oh, I see.
our
Okay. No, that makes sense.
recommendations.
They'd say more, they can walk away and have more time to digest them and read them and consider these as a response to that guiding question.
Well, that had been what we
Yeah.
had initially
that
pictured,
makes sense.
but I mean, people may very well be coming into this event hoping for more of a presentation. And if that's what folks want, like, let's pipe up now and say that, and we can restructure.
I certainly don't want to spend an hour talking at the people attending. I more want to hear from them, but I figured they would probably want a little sense of, so what exactly is it that you're proposing we do regarding the criminal legal system or emergency response?
Yeah.
But we don't have we need more than an hour to go through all of them anyway. So at most it would be the briefest thumbnail summary of our recommendations, assuming they would then take it with them and read it in more detail. And be
Yeah,
energized to do something
maybe we
about
could
it
think
later.
of it like a
Got it.
5-minute commercial at the top that's like a teaser encouraging them to want to read it.
Right. But then have the most of the time around the discussion of that central question that was animating our inquiry below these many months. Got it.
But then that brings up a question, like, might it make sense to have those commercials happen at the very beginning when we're all together in the large room? So then you get like a teaser from each roundtable that's like, read our section, it's about da 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 da.
And so people, oh, okay, I think I want to go to this one, or I want to go to, since you can't be in more than one
yeah.
breakout session at once, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Could we have the agenda back up on the screen and toy with that idea, Rose?
It's just based on the name of the breakout. I'm not sure that I know enough about where I want to go based just on that name.
Mm-hmm.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And we could also just have a closing cultural performance and not have an opener, or open with like a group song and then dive right in. But go ahead and use that 2:30 to 2:40 to have that overview.
I think that also depends on how much Marcia and Xavier want to talk at the beginning. Because I think if we're adding an overview, then maybe 20 minutes of inspirational speech plus an overview could feel a little bit cumbersome.
How long would y'all like? You have 20 minutes, Xavier and Marcia. Do you want all that time?
Absolutely not.
No.
How much time do you want? It's funny when Rose and I were talking about that section, we were really talking about it like a sort of like sermon, like just give us the word we need to carry us through the long haul work.
I love it.
If we make it a collaborative moment, as opposed to I'll say something for 5, you say something for 5. If we collaborate, I think we can really do it in 7 minutes or so.
Yes, yes. And would it be cool to have someone from each roundtable, not Xavier or myself, do the pitch?
Yeah, that's going to happen. Yeah, that's
right.
That's what it's saying, right? Oh, I think
that's what I'm understanding.
Proposing.
Yes,
as far
exactly.
as our opening remarks, we should collaborate. But yes, roundtable members should do the pitches.
Right. Okay. Good.
Mm-hmm. Does that answer the question, Manju?
Yeah. So it'll be a 10-minute encouraging word about the work so far from Marcia and Xavier that helps frame what is this work about. And then we'll take 5 minutes per group to do a commercial. Who will rep each of our 4 roundtables?
I think we should say 3 minutes, because 5 minutes can seem to be a little long. And if we're just doing a pitch, then we should make it a pitch rather than a speech. So I will need to get in touch with Sam, but one of us will do it. And so I don't know how. Either one of us will do it. So I'll get in touch with him, and I would put him first as doing the pitch. If he's not available, then I'll do it.
That's kind of how I feel, Doc, about Noring. So, especially if I'm
go
already
ahead and
emceeing. So, but yeah, I'll have to check in. with him and see.
Mhm.
And you can put me down for ours, Manju, because we know Muffin can't be there and Toya's probably not gonna, I'm just guessing want to do it and Marcia's already up there, so. Process of elimination, that leaves me.
Great. So Samuel will put a question mark because Dr. Wanda is going to confirm. Jesse, are you able to confirm regarding Nori?
Not in this moment, so you should put a question mark.
Jen, would you like to do the honors for our group?
Certainly.
Yay.
I think that's good because I think my one worry about doing it in the breakouts would have been that those breakout discussions would just turn into a Q&A, which I think it's possible that they might kind of try and turn into a Q&A anyways, but the separation might help.
I think it's great for us to go ahead and cancel that 2:30 to 2:40, but I wonder if we could convene people with a song. Is there a song that we think we could gather people with at the very beginning? And perhaps we could get our esteemed MC to lead us in song as a glorious song leader of many a community gathering over the years, Jesse Huddleston.
Can't go wrong with freedom is a constant struggle. I've been struggling so long, I must be free, whatever the actual title of it is. Isn't that, I think that was it was Ella Baker's favorite song.
Well, Jesse, what do you think?
Yeah, if he has to sing it, let him pick.
Yeah, I'm like,
Nothing with particular resonance is coming to me. So you can just add some question marks.
Maybe we can say opening song, question mark, and we'll see if something comes to us over the next few weeks. We also have a most beloved band director among us by the name of Xavier Kaysen, who might be able to lead us in song.
We know he's partial to Bill Withers.
That would be a good hearkening back.
You could also see what the sound system is like and play something over the sound system, just because I don't know everyone's comfort level with singing on the spot.
Well,
I don't want to put that anxiety on anybody else, but just voicing if that is there.
There is though, but when we sing, I can't hold a tune in a bucket, but when we sing in a group, it's irresistible. And, I feel free. Whoever's standing near me may not feel so happy, but I love the idea of a group song. There's nothing better than to knit our hearts in song.
it'll come to us.
Yeah.
So if we could go to these breakouts and have a question for each one, whichever breakout feels ready to share, what was one of the core questions that you asked in your listening sessions that felt like most evocative?
And maybe just throw out initial ideas because I'm watching the time too and want to make sure we have time for a reflection discussion. So Manju and I can also follow up with each roundtable.
And if folks don't want to be put on the spot, we can just say, we will follow up with your roundtable to get your question, but please be thinking about it. Is that better? Yeah, we can figure it out over email, that part. But
Okay.
overall, how does this agenda look? Are there any concerns or anything else that we should shift up? Things you had really been hoping to see that are missing?
is it maybe if like a prompt, we could also include each of the breakouts about asking community members, like, what do you think you can do to help us implement these recommendations? And when we come back in the highlight, that could be something that we could share. Somebody's, I'm going to write my city council, I'm going to do this, I'm going to share it with my community, whatever, to give them the attendees some agency, that we need their help.
Yeah.
Does
I'm
that
wondering
make
how to
sense?
balance. Yeah, I do. And I just don't know that anyone's going to be able to substantially dig into them.
In that amount of time.
Yeah, it's like they will be seeing them for the very first time.
True. Or at least maybe at the end, that can be perhaps an open-ended question, rhetorical question at the closing words, like,
Yeah, maybe we
please
can
think about
ask.
what you all can do to help us get these across the finish line.
Maybe that can be part of the section that Isak and Jatoya are hopefully going to agree to hold for us at the closing. Lifting up some of the invitation from the call to action.
I'm also thinking of, switching over to the report, this question, and I'll zoom in real quick, that Manju wrote up for the,
Yeah.
just a little bit broader.
And Dr. Wanda is lifting up a question from the Youth Roundtable. What does safety look and feel like to you? Or not, sorry, that's not from the Youth Roundtable, from the...
It's from safety. I mean, from prevention, but I'm just saying that was the question that was asked about prevention to youth, and that was their response. So the question would be, what does safety look and feel like to you for our section? And I think if we're going to ask what community members or folks can do to help, we might have some examples so that at least they would have some reference point, because they may not have a thought or clue about what they could do. So it could be something as simple as, or something like working on policy, just some kind of example that they might be thinking about.
Thank you so much.
So I think we should probably do the rest of the discussions via email and follow up. But I did also, just because I pulled it up on my computer, want to just show people the sample page that we were sent from the graphic designers, so people can get an idea of what the report is going to look like. And I don't remember which artist's piece this is.
Malcolm Goff.
Yeah.
This piece is by Malcolm, who is a longtime Durham Public Schools educator and art teacher. He was at EK Poe for many years, and then I think was at Brogden. And this is a picture of some of his kids, and I think it's called something like Angels of History.
So yeah, just to get a sense, and I'll put in the chat too, because they're the symbols that you see on the page that kind of guide the English versus Spanish portions have a specific meaning, and I don't want to miscommunicate what that meaning is. So I'll find the link that we were sent and share that with everyone.
Is the whole report Spanish first and then English, or does it kind of go back and forth?
Yeah, it's like Spanish left, English right. So it'll be Spanish first. And that was an intentional decision about language justice that just has taken a lot of people power and also some financial power to make happen. So thank you to the city of Durham for working really hard to fund that translation at a rush fee.
So if I may ask, what's the significance of the wings? It kind of took me aback a little bit.
Let me find the title of the piece. I don't know the wings reference, but angels is in the name of the art.
I mean, I guess we want to make sure that we're talking about life and not angels kind of representing someone that has gone on or something. I don't know. That just may be my state of mind today with everything that's going on. You know, yeah, so.
Well, I will be transparent that the art is, do you mind giving me screen sharing power too, Rose? I will just share here.
Sorry, one sec.
Sharing the art is, it's a lot of different works. It includes some stuff that is more like Honeyed Gardens by Sabotage, featuring Wonderpuff community member Jackie Morin, to Fierce, Malcolm Goff's piece about Anna Atwater in action, with this quote from The Best of Enemies.
Right. So this was an example, not necessarily what has been selected as representative of the report. Or...
These works are throughout the report. So some of the pieces, like this, is by Durham artist Claire Alexander, and it's heavy, right? I mean, it's this piece, I can't remember the whole name, but it has home in the title, but it's like there's bodies in the water, there's a ship, there's foods, and like I think diaspora is also in the title. So there's like a mix of like some pieces that are really quite heavy and some pieces that are uplifting. We tried to get an array of things, and I know the designers are trying their best to put the art where it makes sense with what's in the words.
And again, I mean, I think it's a beautiful piece. It's, you know, and as I said, it just may be me and the state of mind that I'm in, you know, because of what's happening to children and all of that. So just, I don't know.
I'm so glad you're lifting that up. I think the report is hard in some places. Like I found myself crying as I was reading your sections. There's a lot there.
I think Giovannia, you have your hand raised.
I was just going to affirm Dr. Boone in your assessment. It's nothing that you're going through. I think that's what you see. That's what you felt from it. That's valid. And I see you. I agree. When we're thinking of the Safety and Wellness Task Force, that image of angels and what the title is, I'm wondering if there is opportunity to shift pictures, not that it wouldn't be used, but maybe not the very first page. I know I'm coming in on the back end of this, but I just want to validate what I heard Dr. Boone saying and just where the placement of it is.
To be clear, that was just a sample they sent to give us the overall look and feel of the report. We haven't actually gotten where, like the report, where the art is going to be located. There are, I think, 5 of us, people who had expressed more interest in the design aspect of the report, along with Marcia and Xavier, who are going to be doing a review of the design and providing feedback so we can make those types of edits. If you feel like you are going to have strong opinions and want to be involved in that, let me know, because our window is going to be very tight to give that feedback. So we're trying to balance making sure we go through that. So I know I will write this down for when we do that review.
About this specific piece, I will say, I doubt that it's about people who've passed away, because it's Malcolm's own children depicted in the picture, and it's called The Next Angel of History. And yeah, like the context for the time, I think it's intended more in a like fierce children with wings, superhero kind of vibes, less than
I wasn't suggesting that was the intent. And again, you know, it's just my state of mind based on everything that's been happening with youth, what's happening in other spaces around the world. children with wings. I'm just really sensitive to that right now. And I understand that I'm not a part of the design team. Thank you, Javonya, for helping me with that, but that's all.
I'm
I
so
just wanna
glad
thank
you
all
lifted
for
that up.
I just want to thank you all for all the hard work. By no means is there any type of criticism coming from my behalf. I think thank you, Manju, for showing all of the beautiful artwork. Like there's so much attention and detail that's been paid attention to every part of this report. I think it's beautiful. And Rose, I don't need to be part of the design team. You just take the feedback. And thanks for the explanations.
Yeah, that was an invitation to anyone who wants to be part of that review.
I'm grateful for Dr. Wanda Boone sharing what she did. I think, yes, it's a very heavy week and series of weeks, and it makes sense to have our hearts wide open, and I feel the heaviness alongside you. I think, Jesse, you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, based on this feedback in this moment, and even thinking about what you just shared, Manju, does it make sense to include some kind of, as a part of the first pages, a content warning, just so that, like, I know I've seen that in different online posts, and if we are sort of jumping in the deep end to really, like, excuse me, think deeply and talk specifically about safety and wellness in Durham, and like that includes experiences where folks were very much not experiencing safety, not experiencing wellness. Like, is that helpful? Is that
Yes, let's do it.
a
Is there someone
consideration?
who's able to write it in English and we can get it translated?
Not like anyone's looking for more to do.
It could be a short thing, just something that's giving folks a heads up that we're talking about the trauma of ourselves and our neighbors, and it can be heavy. Maybe some encouragement about taking care of themselves as they read.
Yeah, I'll send something, just a sentence or two, right? Just, okay. Happy to do that.
Thank you. And also just lifting up from the chat, the question, will the report include credits for the art, including title and artist? Thanks for that reminder. We'll put it into our to-do list. Yes, all artists have been paid unless they opted out of payment and decided to donate their piece. We wanted to lift up this this font that we're using. Oh, and Rose, do you mind also sharing the one for the other one, the Martin font?
Yeah, I'll find it.
This one is called Harriet, and it is named after Harriet Tubman, and it is a series of symbols based on quilt squares from the Underground Railroad quilt code. So it references our abolitionist history and futures. And these images are woven through the document.
So are we using the Martin font?
We're also using the Martin font elsewhere. Yeah. So it's titles are with the Martin font. Let's see.
I find it really hard to look at, honestly. Like serifs can be a limitation for people, especially folks with dyslexia, and the detached serifs are kind of odd.
So it's not the text on the page, it's the text in the images.
So like if you look at
Fabulous.
these
The text on this page is
signs.
awful. Yeah, but the images is different. You are correct. Okay, thank you.
And I will say, yeah, please do email me if you have any other like thoughts about the design things
Mhm.
with the report, because all of that is still in process. So there is still time for input. And the other thing I wanted to mention about this like particular fonts that we're using is that I
Mhm.
believe that they are all, I can't remember if it's specifically Black or like BIPOC font creators. That these
That's
fonts.
right.
Yeah.
So these signs are where this font was pulled from, and it's this typeface is going to be like the headings in the report.
Well, thank you for the clarification. Forgive me if this was already said. Do we have anyone, I probably should have asked this 3 months ago, but do we have anyone at the city or the county who is able to verify that the document is 508 compliant?
What does that mean?
That means there's federal rules about making documents accessible to people with color blindness.
So I will double check with Meal Designs, but they regularly have worked with the city.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that that is part of their process. But I'll make a note to double check with them.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, if it's an enormous lift to do that, I should have mentioned it 3 months ago. But if it's already on their radar for something we can do quickly, that would be rad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a question we can relay to the graphic design team. I know they're a team who they regularly bring up questions of accessibility to us, so I can imagine it's something they are familiar with. Other questions or feedback, improvements you want to make? And then Rose, you said we'll be bringing back the report for anyone who wants to be part of that. I think it's like a 24-hour turnaround we have to like receive the full.
Yeah, we are having a specific review meeting on next Monday, the 16th. So if you want to be part of that meeting, email me ASAP and let me know.
Did you say what time it will be again?
Let me look on my
5 to 6 Eastern by
5
Zoom?
to 6 or 6:30. Yeah.
Great. I think we've had at least 2 people RSVP 5 to 6. Are we going to try and use the full hour and a half, or?
I want to say that there's a chance that it'll run over, but I know some people can't make it past 6. But
Great.
I also want
Let's
to
just hold it just in case.
be mindful of time, and we do have one more thing on the agenda. So not that these discussions aren't important, but let's continue them online and at the meeting next week.
So maybe private chat, Rose, if you'd like to be part of that meeting on Monday, it will be our final chance to touch this report before we send it for printing.
So speaking of RSVPing though to the event on the 28th, that we're going to fill out the Google Doc about who's going to invite whom. Is there any RSVP we need to ask people to make, or can they just show up? We don't need a head count, so okay. And if people say, yeah, I'm going to come,
question.
I'd love to see them. Oh, well, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Should we make a response link so that we can get a heads up on interpretation, head count for food? That might be helpful, actually, and it's not too late. It's just October 11th. I think it would be useful.
Very few people RSVP these days, but yeah, it wouldn't hurt to
try.
Exactly. I'm not sure it'll give us an accurate count, but
If you can just put that in the Google Doc, then we can all use that to direct people who we're inviting to go there. And
Okay,
then,
I'm seeing body language that says it's hopeless. Let's
okay, then never
drop
mind.
it. Okay.
If you don't need it, why get it? But
Not hopeless.
Yeah,
It's
I just got scolded by a buddy who's getting married in November. He's like, dude, we need the head count. Do you want to eat? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I got you. So yeah, I agree that with Marsha, people aren't really good at doing that anymore.
But more like if people do reply to us and say, yeah, I'm coming or I can't come, where can I get a copy of the report? Will we be able to get a copy of the PDF before the 28th that we can share in advance with people who are planning to come, or especially if they said I can't come, but I'd love to see it? Rose, is that doable?
So we should have, assuming timelines, we should have the report, I'm imagining, at the latest by the Monday before the event.
Which is plenty of time. Nobody's going to read it.
At that point, I think we're going to share it with members of the 3 elected bodies so that they have time to review the report in advance. And then I think it would be a question just in terms of like how widely we want to share the report before the 28th. I think at the very least on the 28th, it will be available online. And I'm working on, it should be available on the task force webpage for now. And then I'm working with the city of Durham to see if there is a place on their website where it will live beyond the task force, like in the long term.
So at the very least,
Yeah.
if people say, I'd love to come, but I can't, where can I see it? We can direct them there
Correct.
by at least by the 28th. Okay, got it. Thanks.
And as soon as it's completed and has passed that final review, everyone here will have access to it. And you can make judicious decisions about who you share it with.
Right. I don't think this is like some like exclusive private thing. We're gonna create some VIP event so that folks feel special and get a exclusive look. Like I think if Rose is saying it'll be available and done by the 23rd, then I imagine the people that we would invite on the 28th or have already invited, maybe you're sending another reminder and you're including it copied digitally, so I think we'll do what we can as we're able. And I'm certainly not trying to give people more work to do. So I figure with food and things like that, I expected that we would probably have as much language justice work as we've been doing, have some translation or interpretation, I should say, available for the day of. But in terms of food, I don't think we were trying to feed people. So I think we'll have
We do have interpretation and we do have food.
Right. So we'll do the best of what we got. That tracks. I think anything else feels a bit more formal and a bit heavier of a lift. So I would extend grace to anybody who wants to overachieve in that regard.
Any final thoughts about the event or the report?
I will say we're planning for about 200 participants, and we've invited only elected so far. We are expecting the rest of those 200 bodies to be filled by you and by any members of the public who are listening at this time. We're really going to need some help to pack that room. And how big is Holton, Rose? What's our max capacity for the auditorium? Do you know?
I do not know, but I will find out.
Just eyeballing, I would guess it's somewhere around 400.
It's more than that.
It's more.
Certain it's more than that. I'll give
So invite everyone you know and your grandma. Are we ready for the next conversation? Or any other feedback before we move on? Food would be from
Indulge.
Queen, Precious, Jewel, and Jay.
All right, I think Barsha, hand it over to you and I'll put stuff in the chat.
Okay, great. Well, as this is our concluding meeting, official meeting, I thought it would just be, Xavier and I thought it would be really beneficial to all of us and to those in the community to share, just go around and do a circle process. Alejandra, feel free to be another circle keeper. But we're going to put the names in the chat, and that will define, you just pass. We speak when we're holding basically a virtual talking piece, and then pass to the next. And we all have that beautiful freedom of just listening to understand and not to respond. Also, everyone will have about 2 minutes to speak. And if it goes over too long, I'll interrupt you. So just letting you know. That's the role of a circle keeper. It's just to keep things going. And if you can, of course, to be on camera. And the question that we've posed that came with the agenda is, what is something that you've discovered over the last 2 years on the task force that will guide you in the future? And I'll begin. What I think has been so astounding to me and will guide everything I will ever do for the rest of my life that is in community is to listen and to seek out the voices and the wisdom of my neighbors, is to not rely on professional policies and professionals and politicians and so-called leaders, that the leadership and the wisdom and the guidance that is required to make Durham a safe and well place to be is to glean the wisdom of this community and the ways that we have learned, that I've witnessed, non-judgmental, empathic listening, whether it was the town halls or listening with Mike with families of homicide victims, or just all the many ways of our sister Meredith going into the jail and speaking, that all the wisdom of our lives or what is required, that will shine the light in front of our toes. And so when we do things in Durham, I just hope and pray that it comes from the wisdom of the community and then goes up. And with that wisdom, there's true accountability and I think it's the opportunity to build relationships, which is the foundation for peace. So that has been my greatest takeaway. And for that, I am so grateful to you all. It's been life-changing. That I'll pass to Xavier.
I forgot I was muted. I did put a timer on this because I got to go back a minute. It's not by accident, Rose, that you asked me the correct pronunciation of my first name. My name is Xavier. I'm saying that because being in a small town, a Black guy with name Xavier, the only Xavier I ever saw as a youth. I mean, like ever. I mean, I've taught many of them now, but that was it. My earliest memory in life is mom reading to myself and my brothers. And she always used the voice of the characters. So that was just like going to a movie almost. And she told me before I even went to school that the meaning of the name Xavier, it has two, it could be new house, but also could mean brilliant or bright. And she would say to me all the time, "You're brilliant. You are brilliant." So when I walked around the only Xavier, I'm like, cool, I'm a light, I'm brilliant, I'm shining, right? So she gave me dignity through my name. She and my dad gave me dignity through my name. And although I spent all this time as a band director, uniforming people, making them march look alike so that they look like one, I could never see them as a unit. I always looked at individuals when I watched my students. I'm like, yep, that's Mike acting up, and okay. But with all that practice as an educator of knowing my students' names and understanding, meeting their families, thinking that I had dignity, in my hand, like I got this. And then all the years I've spent as a deacon, serving families even in their toughest times, you, my friends, and our residents we've talked to have given me a deeper sense and understanding of what it means to have dignity in a community. And I thank you for giving me that. And I'm taking a bigger chunk of dignity with me as we leave this space and as I continue to be in community with you. And I pass it on to Alejandra.
Thank you, Xavier. I've only been with the group, I think 8 or 9 months. So I missed a lot of the listening sessions and a lot of the work that was directly in the community. But learning from you all and hearing from you all over the last 9 months has truly inspired me and made me think of community work and leadership and policy in a really different way. I've seen what you were sharing, Marcia, about really listening to the community and taking what people are saying and acting on that, and holding leaders accountable. I didn't really think that in a city, which Durham to me feels like a small city, but I know it's not a small city. I didn't know that it could happen in this way and that change could come about in this way and that it could really come, I think, from people. And I think I've just been really amazed by you all, and how all of your work connects to one another's, and how, you know, what you do in your professional lives connects then to this, and what you do in your personal lives connects to this work too. So I'm feeling immensely grateful for getting to participate and for getting to be a part of the Durham community that I hope someday I'll get to return to. I'll pass to Ms. Lewis.
So, what have we discovered? What have we discovered over the last 2 years? For me, the Durham community has many voices, talents, and it's just a shared desire for collective safety that I saw come out of this group and this task force. From all the different listening sessions and things that were lifted up, with the best intentions, Durham's community is resilient despite circumstances, despite policies or the implementation of policies and practices, and it all intersects across the 3 different municipalities. And you all in your conversations and your dissecting the plan, the conversations, the work, and began to weave those together, it just makes sense, right? I feel like that you all have taken such, and I said this earlier, such care and intentionality. I've seen so much growth and bonding from where we started to where we are now. Always having respectful conversations and communications, but there has been growth and it has been beautiful. And even getting to this final product, to see the level of commitment that you all shared to incorporate each voice has been so inspiring. So I see this as a continuation of the work that was done with the Race Equity Task Force, with the voices having been gathered, with another report coming forward. The baton has been passed, and as deep as this has gone, it will be passed again to go deeper, to go further into the implementation of these recommendations. So definitely pat yourself on the back. It's been a phenomenal transformation and progression to see. And I will pass it to Jesse.
Go for it, Jennifer. You're next in line.
So I mean, I feel like it's been both a very, very short and very, very long period of time that we've been working together. And I think the things that I have taken away from this are, I think, an improved sense of familiarity and knowledge of my own community, which I really appreciate. I have been doing like policy-oriented work and research for a long time, and kind of insinuating myself into other communities' business has kind of been my bread and butter for a while, hopefully for good. I came into this task force kind of joking with my partner. I was like, I am on the first name basis with a lot of DAs, a lot of health directors, a lot of county commissioners across the state, none of them in my own county. Like, I don't know the folks where I live. I spend too much time in the car. And so both being able to not just recognize, but like learn through experience and through doing it, like how available our leadership is, how available some of our leadership is willing to make themselves to community issues. And then also just the fantastic privilege of being in a space over and over again with folks who are just freaking legends in this county, in this state, folks who like have just been like winning the community organizing Olympics longer than I've been here, longer than I've been alive in some cases. And so I've just been deeply, I guess it's a very different feeling, like being impressed from a distance and being impressed very up close. And it's been very privileging and very inspiring and very motivating to have the ability to be deeply impressed up close with a lot of folks who I probably honestly wouldn't have had the opportunity to interface with so deeply for such an extended period of time. So that has felt like a real privilege to me. And so, yeah, I think that's, yeah, I learned a ton, but mostly I just feel really lucky to have been a part of it and have been in the room. And with that, I will pass it back to Jesse.
Thank you. What is something that I have discovered over the past 2 years on the task force that will guide me in the future? I mentioned earlier, I'm in Portland, Maine with my mom. So when I'm in vacation mode, I'm often very reflective. So there's a lot that's up here as our work concludes. What keeps coming to me, and I don't know if it was a discovery. Well, I guess that's a discovery. I think the specific discovery is that we, at least in Durham, and maybe it's true more broadly, but we are really good at finding the words to say that allow us to articulate our values and our aspirations. And it is far more challenging than I think we collectively realize to embody and put those values and aspirations into real practice. And it is demanding, I think, a deeper source and wellspring of patience, of imagination, of determination, that requires something deeper, something that is a particular personal conviction, and relying on that to continue to energize, because this is it's hard. It's really challenging. It's really exhausting. It is a labor of love. And some days really do feel like labor. But it is a labor of love. And that labor is very much worth it. So yeah, I think the reflection for me is this work is hard, this work is beautiful and sacred, and this work must continue. And I am prayerful that Greater Works continue in practices and postures that allow us to be better together. I don't think it's any one person, or maybe it is, and it's also, right? Like it is this personal conviction, and collectively, I think there is a deeper imagination that I have for how we can shape culture that is far more than just lip service, but something that is relational and embodied, And I'm hopeful to be a part of that. That's me. I think Manju is next. Yep, Manju. Virtual mic to you, beloved.
Thank you. I receive it. Um, hmm. I think I learned something about the power of diversity, the ways that our differences made every offering we brought together so much stronger. And something about the elegant movement and conversation between clarity and compromise. Like bringing our own clarity was so important, and being willing to be in compromise to come together was important too. I just feel so touched by every story that I got to receive directly through our roundtable, or that I heard about through the ways that we received the conversations that the other roundtables had. I feel made different by the stories of others. And I will pass the mic to Mike.
Well, I'll begin with brief snark that I've gotten to see the weeds of how local government policy works. Or I know how the sausage is made, and now I'm a vegetarian. But the more genuine, I did initially see a lot of kind of reflexive reticence of change when we would spend more time talking to agency heads. Well, that's not the way we do it. But I've seen that change over 2 years, and especially the newer the elected official, or the newer the organization, not just with us, but especially learning how receptive like community safety department was to working with crisis response, how open the school board has seemed to be to working with youth in schools. And that gives me, not just I learned it, but it gives me optimism that there's that openness to change, and especially willingness to collaborate across agency lines. And we can even be optimistic and hope between city and county lines in implementing things that are that involve both. And initially, it was exciting to learn of all the many small community organizations doing things related to community safety, or with us specifically with relating to the criminal legal system, or say reentry, but small organizations doing similar missions and not necessarily communicating and collaborating as effectively. And I've seen that evolve over time, and especially through the auspices of things like the local reentry council that brings those people together, like the Stepping Up initiative that brings those various community partners and groups together to more effectively pursue common goals. So I've learned, it wasn't a real surprising lesson that that's the more effective way to do things, but it's been inspiring to see that happening, and that those are things that I can continue to be part of, those two entities, and also to meet, this group of people that I'll continue to be able to turn to for help in all the various community entities that we pursue together. And as one of the older ones, maybe not the on the older, it's just inspiring to see young, and you guys, most of you are youngsters as far as I'm concerned, to be that young and that energetic and that badass, that you're the next generation of Muffins, of Marcias, of Wandas, et cetera, that roll the clock forward 20 years, and you'll be the ones that people are turning to for guidance as to how you make change. And Rose.
I just want to start out by saying that I'm really grateful to have been allowed to be on this journey with all of you. And I think most of you know that I'm based in Chicago while I'm getting my degree, but Durham, and I'm a person I've like moved around and my family has moved around. So I'm not really like based in an area in the way that some people are, but Durham is the place where I like became an adult and like learned how to be in the world. And so it's been very special for me to be able to stay connected to Durham as a community, and to all of you. And I think I've been reflecting as all of you have been talking, and I think the two main things that I'm taking with me from this so far, I feel like I'm still, constantly in a process of learning, is sort of I think the bravery that all of you have had to be on this committee, and it hasn't always been popular to be on this task force, and to say some of the things that you have said. And so yeah, just reflecting on that, and sometimes not even in big ways, but just in small ways of saying something that another person might not want to hear in a meeting, and I think connected to that, also learning from all of you how to have hard conversations and disagreements and stay in community with one another and keep trying and kind of work through all that messiness, because of the shared goal and the love of community and the desire to listen and to lift up the voices of others. So that's just little bits of kind of what is a lot that I will be taking away from all of you. And I will pass it to Dr. Wanda Boone.
Wow. So my husband and I have lived in Durham for 52 years, so we've been here a long time. And coming from Teaneck, New Jersey, which is or was the first township in the United States to vote against segregation. And then as a teenager, I worked across the state of New Jersey in response to the Newark riots, and represented Black African-American teenagers in a response to what we should do about that. And then coming to Durham and all of the experiences that I've had here. But what I'm saying just about those two things really shaped me in terms of attempting to be a bridge builder, and one who looks to the heart of what's happening, all the while learning how to be resilient because of adverse childhood experiences. And I think that's one of the reasons that I brought that to the table. Initially, we weren't called prevention at first, but if we don't, in my opinion, prevent trauma, then people are not able to even see how a future can be formed. And so one of the things that I say when I talk to community members, well, first of all, that's why I think that young people can really get things done, because I know what that looks like. I know what trauma looks like in young people and in community, and I know what resilience can be and how it can be lived. But so a couple of things that I always say to community members that we are engaged with are what is right with you, what are your strengths. And so I learned to translate that in an effort to help community members feel and be empowered to express their voices and to make sure that people feel valued. But what I learned is that I needed the same thing. I needed to remember what's right with me. I needed to remember what my strengths are. And then understanding that power has to be tempered with in humility, so that, there are times when the doctor comes off, I don't even mention, the doctor, even though I work really hard for it. But if it makes someone feel less empowered or less valued, or as if the title means that whatever it means, then I'll throw the title away, because it's more important to me to respond from the heart than it is from some lofty place that people may see. So I'm just me in community with you, and I thank you for that, and I drop the mic.
Beautiful. Thank you all. It is really an honor to know you all. And I just think the relationships that we've formed on this task force are just really powerful and have just begun. As my friend Asman says, you know, there's harvest time. That's what we're going to see. We're, I think, planting seeds, and soon it will be harvest time. And it's just wonderful. Xavier, you want closing remarks?
Oh, yeah, I'd like to definitely take some time, just a minute or two, to, since I was talking about names, just speak the names of those who, there were some who got this started and then moved on to other things. I definitely want to thank, show much gratitude to former Mayor Steve Schewel, who brought Marsha now on, along with Chair Howerton with the county, and Chair Umstead with school board. But thank them bringing on Amber Wade and of course Dr. Dwayne Campbell. They really were there at the beginning to help get this thing started. I just want to make sure that their names are mentioned, as well as a few members who stepped off before we finished this. Tyler Wittenberg, Tanya Williams, Cynthia Fox. Just say their names because they haven't been in these meetings recently. So just want to put those names out there and just show great thanks to those who got this started along with us, as well as former co-chair Judge Reinhardt. Yeah, Shamika Reinhardt. Yes.
And council members Vernetta Alston and Jillian Johnson, who co-authored the first draft of our task force bylaws.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All of the community organizations who authored the proposal to create a community safety and wellness task force. Thank you.
Yes. And that's a beautiful part of the report, by the way, is the history of how we were formed. I'm so glad that was there. And please, big love to Durham Beyond Policing. That was the hub in the middle of this wheel. And for that, we are very grateful.
And all the work that came before Durham Beyond Policing that made this possible.
Yes.
Also, big thanks to the Community Safety Department, who just held so many of the pieces behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We really do have to do a shout out for Ryan Smith. He has taken so many questions and helped us guide through so much. Absolutely. Well, with that,
Can I say, we have a thank yous page at the top of the report. If you look at those names, there are guaranteed names missing. Please look over it and help us fill in those gaps. It really was just a first pass of memory, and we got to get it right. We got one go.
Okay. And that's where because I don't remember it. Where is that? Where did we go for that, dear? For the list of thank yous?
It looks like page 7.
Thank you.
In the copy.
Okay.
Which we can put back in the chat if anyone
But
needs that
if
link
there are any
again.
additions, we should probably send them directly to you, Rose, not put them in a document that's no longer live. Correct?
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
Because I think Goodwin's on that list, right? Because I mean, if I think the
You better
justice
be.
formally CGRC, now Justice Services Department, is another good example of a organization that we relied on. It was very supportive of us and will
See,
be an
that's a
important
great
ally.
example. Please send those
But I
names
think
over.
she's in. I'll make sure, but I think she's
Yes.
was already in there.
And because the graphic designers are being so careful about spacing, the sooner we can get that feedback, the better.
Yeah, yeah. Like tomorrow. Great, great. Well, it is 7:30-ish somewhere right here. So, as our tradition, would you all be so kind as to put in the chat, what are you taking from this time together tonight? And we will see you October 28th. I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you, Manju, so much for your leadership in creating this event for us. Really appreciate you sharing your time and talents to have a community event. So here we go. Oh, I love it, y'all. Connection, persistence, hope, anticipation for what comes next, community, equanimity, and gratitude, connectivity, imagination. And I will add love. See you on the 28th. And thank you. Peace.
Thank you, everybody.